I understand the essence is one of the core and the pillar that you have, but what else is the heart of coaching in your own mindset and your own definition?
Okay, I love sharing this. Coaching is the sacred space of unconditional love, where learning, growth, and transformation naturally occur. And when I heard that come through me, I took that home, made a poster, and put it on the wall of my classroom at my school. And it has led me and my work as a core message ever since. And I have a saying that we are the space for the client's greatness.
Welcome back to MCC Talk, the podcast where we delve into the heart and soul of coaching with the pioneers and thought leaders who have shaped the profession in the world. I'm your host, Vân Anh, the first ICF Master Certified Coach in Vietnam. Today we have the honor of welcoming one of the greatest coaches in the coaching world, Miss Fran Fisher. Fran is an ICF Master Certified Coach, internationally recognized as one of the first credential ICF MCC in the coaching profession. She has dedicated over 30 years of advancing in the field. Her visionary leadership includes serving as a founding board member of ICF and chairing the Credentialing Development Committee, where she was instrumental in developing credentialing programs for aspiring coaches and training schools accredited by International Coaching Federation. In her lifelong commitment, she was awarded with the Lifetime Achievement Award by ICF Washington State Chapter in 2012 and the ICF Circle of Distinction in 2022. In today's episode, we will explore Fran's journey, her insights of the essence of coaching, and the wisdom she imparts to future generations of coaches. Let's welcome Miss Fran Fisher. It's an honor to have you here with us.
Thank you. It's an honor to have been invited.
Can you share with us a little bit about yourself so our audience here who don't know about you yet can get to know you today?
I have been passionate about coaching and a visionary about the impact in the world. So you see this Earth from outer space behind me. This is my inspiration and my mission to help the world be a better place. I had that awareness about myself since I was 4 years old. And this mission to help the world be a better place has driven me with passion all of my life until I found coaching, and then I felt like I was in my sweet spot. You know, this is my place. So this over here is the matrix of divine love. And this picture over here is the cover of my book. It's called Violet's Vision, and it's an allegory about Violet, who is the guardian angel of vision. And her story demonstrates the incredible transformational impact in the world when we live true to the essence of who we are.
I noticed the keyword essence. Yes. So with that, please elaborate more on its meaning to you and you being a coach.
This story was birthed out of a process that I developed in 1991. And I was recovering from an addiction called workaholic. What drove me was a very high standard of excellence and a inner critic that said it's never good enough. So that manifested as workaholism, always working, no play. It was never good enough. It was never enough. And I was doing a lot of personal growth for years and years and years. And I understood that we need to put ourselves in the center. And I was afraid to take that leap of faith, but I had ruined my relationships, my career, and my health. And I was in breakdown. So I decided to take that leap of faith, Van Ann, and put myself in the center. And I started transforming the quality of my life. And then I started attracting people who were small business entrepreneurs and helping them to discover who they are at essence, who they are at the very essence of who they are, not their personality, but the core truth of their being, their divine nature. And I help them to articulate that in a powerful, empowering statement. And then we discovered their purpose and their values and how to build a life that supported them in living true to the essence of them, their passion, their purpose, and their values. And that's when I learned about coaching. And I started incorporating the coaching into my Living Your Vision process. That's what I called it. So that was the very beginning. And then I joined a few people on the West Coast of the United States, and we formed an association. And we had a vision of coaching, weaving coaching into the fabric of living. That was our vision. 20 years out, we're going to see that coaching is woven into the fabric of life. Well, we saw that manifested in 10 years, not 20. And so we've come a long way. I was on the first executive board of the ICF, and I was chair of the credentialing committee. So my committees designed the paths for coaches to get their certification and the paths for schools getting certified. So we established that. So in the process, I founded my own school, and it was one of the first three: Coach Training Institute, Coach U, and my school, Academy for Coach Training. We were the first three. And we were accredited in 1998 with ICF. So I was grandfathered as an MCC. So I've been an MCC since 1998, and I have been mentoring coaches since 1998, and I have been an ICF assessor since 1998. And I love mentoring and I love assessing, because this is a way that I can contribute to the development of our profession and the impact that we have in the world.
I feel a bit delighted hearing that. Okay, you were credentialed as an MCC in 1998, because ICF was born in 1995, which means after every credential path was established, you are one of the first coaches who were credentialed as MCC.
Yes. Yes. We had to design the credentialing path. We had to design the ethics and standards and the competencies, even the definition of coaching. So we spent those first few years as virtual teams manifesting all the infrastructure for our association.
I can sense that is, and that has been your fuel for passion. It's not just coaching. It's about training coaches. It's about assessing coaches. It's about developing the whole world and industry of coaching. That's beautiful.
It's very fulfilling, very rewarding. It nourishes my heart and soul.
We understand your passion for coaching. However, there might be times that challenges keep coming, and that might test your dedication, your commitment, or your passion. So what keeps you grounded and what keeps you motivated to actually continue and go on in this journey?
Thank you. Well, learning is one of my highest values. Learning and growth, personal growth. And I am passionate about always growing and learning. And sometimes those learning experiences were painful and embarrassing and humbling, but the learning that I gleaned from the risks that I took and the stretches that I took, the learning made it all worthwhile, and it still does. So I get to be on the inner side with ICF of the evolution that we keep causing, the evolution, learning new ways of contributing to what it takes to effectively and efficiently and masterfully coach. So I was on the team who developed the PCC markers. And that was thrilling to be part of that development team. And so I knew what they were going to be for the assessing. I was intimately embodied with these markers, these PCC markers. And I was also part of the development of the MCC minimum skills requirements. And we worked with those as assessors since 2006 until 2022. We worked with that format all those years, and it became outdated, So we formed a team, and we brought that up to date. And it's still evolving for MCC, and I will be talking more about that.
Fran, since I'm a very new MCC, I was credentialed MCC in December of 2022. It's been almost 3 years, and I'm renewing my credential this year. So from what you just shared, I believe that I am one of the outcome of those minimum skills requirements for MCC.
Yes.
And I was assessed by with those skills by some assessor in ICF and granted my credential. So I had you to say thanks for that, for the whole development of those minimum skills requirements for MCCs like that. So thank you. And this is the first time that I know about the history of development of markers and of a minimum skills requirement for credentialed coaches. So I guess right now, with what you just shared, your whole development path is about developing others and your own skills of sharpening your skills of assessment, mentoring. But to you, in your whole experience of more than 30 years of coaching, I understand that essence is one of the core and the pillar that you have. But what else is the heart of coaching in your own mindset and your own definition?
Okay. Oh, I love sharing this. So there's a bit of a backstory on this. In 1998, we had ICF. We had our first international conference. It was in Orlando, Oregon, Florida. And since I had one of the first schools, I was invited to be interviewed after the conference. Well, the last night of the conference, we had a speaker named Julio Ulaya. He was a visionary, and he was founding a new school, very spiritual man, and he was our keynote speaker. And as I listened to him talk about the soul of coaching, and he was talking my spiritual language, I was so deeply moved. And So when he finished speaking, they did what they always do. Then up come the lights, up comes the music, and everyone goes out and dances, celebrates. Well, I'm a dancer, Van Ann. I love dancing, but I was in an altered state. I couldn't go there. So I went back to my hotel room and I actually went to bed. I just stayed in that quiet, self-reflective space. So the next morning, I went to the interview, and I was the first one who was asked, "What is your definition of coaching?" Well, I had written down some notes that I brought with me. But when this gentleman asked me, "What is your definition of coaching?" Here's what came through me. This came through me. Coaching is the sacred space of unconditional love, where learning, growth, and transformation naturally occur. And when I heard that come through me, I took that home, made a poster, and put it on the wall of my classroom at my school. And it has led me and my work as a core message ever since.
I can feel that you keep that sacred place for so many years. You harbor and nurture that sacred place for unconditional love, for growth, for learning, everything, for so many years. To be honest, I'm a little bit touched by that. And I remember in those sessions with my own clients that they feel that unconditional love. They feel, okay, this is that sacred place that they can be themselves and learn and grow.
Well, thank you. And I'll go ahead and say something about MCC. At the MCC level, it's more about who we're being. And I have a saying that we are the space for the client's greatness. MCC takes a notch up from PCC in that there's less doing as an MCC coach. There's less doing and more being, more curious, evoking the client's greatness. We're not doing any work for the client. We're evoking them and evoking them and evoking them.
When you mentioned that, I remember my application to be an MCC in 2022. I was rejected twice. It didn't go through. It didn't pass.
Okay.
I didn't succeed at first. And my feedback that I received was there was some elements of doing in that.
Okay. So I'm going to speak from the lens of the assessor right now to your point. It's painful and sad for me as an assessor when I am evaluating an applicant of recording and I cannot grade it to a passing level. It's not fun, it's painful, it's sad. And so here's what I do. I try to give that applicant feedback that will lift them to be clear, to understand what their developmental opportunity is. There's nothing evaluative about good, bad, right, wrong. It's consider this because of this purpose, that you could have a different impact for your client. I believe what I know about you, and I just met you, but I believe that you took the learning as a value. Am I right?
Yes, I did. Those feedback they were very helpful. So much that I learned every word from it. Okay, this is what's happening. That's what I'm doing, and I have to change in which and part and what about the way that I do. So yeah, the outcome of that story was I got my MCC in December.
Yes, you did. You learned and you grew. Well, here's the thing. This is like a motto for me. Whenever I have the opportunity, I say, coaches, start sooner going for your MCC, because MCC is not just adding 2,000 more hours. It's not. It's developmental. And if a coach is not continuing to learn what they're going toward, they're very shocked and disappointed when they don't pass. Yeah. So you can pass along my my motto: start sooner, start sooner.
I was very glad receiving those two felt assessments, as in, okay, that was what I was doing. I knew where to look, and that's
good for you.
And how I am today.
Well, and I'll share through the lens of a mentor now. When I have a mentee who gets discouraged along the way because I'm showing them new beliefs, new habits, new ways of being, and it's hard work for a lot of my mentees because they've been practicing those former habits for over 2,000 hours. So that's the hard part of my mentoring job is when one of my mentees gets really discouraged. And that's when I can just love them and have empathy and do a little bit of cheerleading. I know you can do this. But I don't just stop there, Van Ann. I have discovered my secret for success with my mentees. And that was a learning for me as a mentor. So a coach starts out trying to memorize the skills, and they're in their heads. I got to remember this, and I've got to remember that, and I've got to remember this. And they get overwhelmed, and then they're not connected to the client because they're trying to remember, I've got to do this and that and the other thing. So what has made the difference for my mentees is I learned how to explain to my mentees the purpose for that competency, the purpose, the underlying purpose, that this has the kind of impact that you want to have with your client. These are the reasons. And they go, oh, and now they relax out of their heads and they get into their bodies and into their hearts. And then the skill is demonstrated from their embodiment, not from their head. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What I noticed is that it's not just about the way of doing, but you mentioned about new habits, new belief, new perspective of looking at things. It's not just what surface, it's about what's underlying there.
Yes.
And before that, you mentioned about feeling sad and painful, not marking a pass score for any applicant. So with those emotions, with those inner states of being of a person, what do you think that contributes to the being and the inner power of a coach?
Well, what it contributes to is what I call the spiritual path that it actually is. On our very first day of our first class, we step onto a spiritual path. It's a soulful path. As a coach begins to let go of their attachment to their ego, it's not about me. I don't need to prove myself. I don't need to prove anything. I can be over there with that client calling forth their greatness. Let go of my ego that wants to tell them, right? Those attachments. So what happens is the more that a coach, a mentee, lets go of their ego attachments, they begin to experience the transformational impact that it has for their clients. And then it's just easier. I have a little story, my own personal story about that. May I share it?
Yes, please.
Okay. So when I was in elementary school, I was always at the top of my class. And my peers, other students, would come to me, help me with their math, help them with their history, getting ready for a test, and I loved it, Van. I loved it. I loved the attention and the fact that I could help them, and it was the same way in high school. Into my life, actually, believe it or not, I became an apartment manager for 20 years because I was a single parent, and so I could work at home. We lived right in the apartment building, and my residents would come to pay their rent, and they would stay, and they would ask me questions, and I would share my life learning stories, and they loved them, and I loved being able to tell and share. And then I found coaching. And I found out the very first day, ask, don't tell. Now, here's the thing. I had done so much spiritual and personal growth work that I knew on a very deep level that was a spiritual principle. I knew it. I felt it. But I had the habits of feeding my ego. I realized when I started coaching and my clients were accessing their authentic power, they were taking their power, they were taking their own power back. And I saw an image one day, and I felt it in my body. My client was up front on a stage with an audience, and the light was shining, the floodlight was shining on them, and I was in the background by the curtain, supporting them, holding them big, and celebrating them for who they were being. And that's when I had a deep transformational experience for myself, realizing that I had been feeding my ego, just like eating candy it was. And now, as a coach, I'm empowering my clients and I'm feeding my soul. So I share this story with my mentees when they're having a hard time letting go of, I need to do this, I need to fix, I need to change this client's state that they're in. She's crying. Oh, it's okay. You'll be okay. No, your job is not to fix that, right? No fixing, telling, no interpreting what you think they mean. No, you ask them so they can hear themselves and they can say their own words, not your words.
So you went from feeding your ego by telling to feeding your soul by asking.
Yes, exactly.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, once again, I'm a little bit touched because I was reminded of my whole coaching journey somehow started similarly in one way or another. So yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
And that's our own spiritual path of realizing as a coach. What about in clients? In your experience with your clients, what are the elements that keeps them from where they going from where they were to where they can be?
So as a coach, same thing. It's holding them big, holding them whole, holding them capable, resourceful. So instead of, oh, I know what you could do, I'm asking, what ideas do you have? What thoughts do you have? What resources might you draw on? And if they say, I don't know, I'll ask them, well, how could you find out? I'm still not rushing in to save them. And then we design a plan for, well, I could go to the internet. I could go to my mother. I could go to my best friend. I could, and then they start brainstorming ideas, and then we design an action plan to follow through, and off they go.
Yeah. And with that, what's the common traits that you see in those clients? Because there might be clients who went very fast in their whole transformation, and there might be some clients who didn't.
Oh, man, and I have stories to fill a book. Stories, inspiring stories about clients who had a goal, and it was a big one, beyond their imagination, but they put themselves on the path to go for it, and we designed action steps, and sometimes they moved forward and sometimes they fell down or life got in the way, how that is. And what helped them to get through was taking the learning every time from what got in the way to maybe it was a fear, or maybe it was a life circumstance, whatever it was, to reframe to what is the opportunity here for your learning? What is the opportunity? That is one of my favorite questions, empowering questions. They just feel overwhelmed with everything that's in the way, their health, their finances, their circumstances, you name it. So you're on a path. What is the opportunity? I like to ask sometimes, if this was your soul's journey and you set yourself up for this, what's your learning? What is your growth opportunity here? Just right in your face. What is it? And they know. They don't think they know until I ask.
So it's reflection questions on their soul journey that helps them lighten up and saw their own truths and their answers, right?
Well, it gets them out of their heads. They get into their body. They get into their heart, into their soul. Yeah.
Fran, here in LCV, in our company, we have emotional intelligence as our base for our coaching and our training.
Okay.
Putting aside the soul path, the spiritual path, and emotions of a person, what do you see as a relationship between those two?
They are the doorway. What is the feeling? What is the feeling now in relationship to your issue? What do you think? Maybe it's frustration. Okay. Well, what do you want to be feeling in the face of that situation? Peace in my heart, or joy, okay? So there's a gap. There's a gap. And this is creative tension. I help them set up this creative tension between where they are now, in the now, and what they want to get to. Now, what is it going to take to get there? And that's the work. Moving toward. And if we know we like to find out what their motivation is. This is PCC marker 3.3. Okay.
The meaning, the motivation. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So what would be most important to you? What's meaningful to you about achieving that? Imagine that you've achieved it. How is your life going to be different? We call it the fuel. That's the fuel, the motivation. I like to call it motivation. That's the fuel that pushes them forward, that gives them the courage to take the risks, to take the steps.
Yeah, emotion is the doorway to open everything that inside of them in their own spiritual path, in their motivation, their courage, their true self, to actually go for what they want. With that, how do you think emotions contribute to the spiritual path of a coach? Besides opening the doorway, what else does it play as a role in their own soul path?
Well, establishing in the PCC markers, we have identifying what they want to accomplish and what's motivating them to accomplish it, and the emotions are part of that process. The relationship, the emotional relationship to that issue, we peel that away and discover what's, deeply underlying want, the true want, rarely the thing they think they want. For example, well, I want to take away 3 steps to accomplish, or a plan. That's on the surface. But imagine that you do take away a plan that satisfies all your criteria. It's exactly, what you hope to accomplish today. What's going to be different? I'm going to have clarity on how to move forward. Okay, so imagine you have clarity. What's that going to bring you?
When they answer about the who part, then you can ask more about the what that they want.
Yes, exactly. This one client comes to mind years ago, and she said she thought, okay, it's clarity. That's what I want. So then I surprised her. Okay, imagine you have that clarity. Now what's going to be different? Oh, I think I'm going to realize what my purpose is. Wow, what if you realize what your purpose is? She said, well, I'm going to feel like I'm living more on purpose in my life. And we started out with a plan, and we ended up with her life purpose is what she really wanted.
Yeah, that's how objective changes in the coaching session, right? Yeah.
Shifted, totally.
So far, I've been touched by your stories of a spiritual path and all the examples around that. And for the last bit of our podcast today, we really want to listen to anything that you have to say that can support future coaches and current coaches who are very new to coaching, new as in less than 10 years.
Well, start sooner.
Start sooner.
So I have said it already, dear ones that are just early on the path, start finding out what MCC is about, and start practicing some of these principles. Now, as an assessor and a mentor, I would like to offer some information. The PCC markers are the science. They are the foundation of what it takes to have a really effective and masterful coaching conversation. MCC is the art. So as a mentor and as an assessor, I'm helping my mentees to, I'm showing them by calibrating the science and the art. We're calling these the MCC behavioral statements, or we can call them the anchors, the MCC anchors. Okay, they're the art. So there are 5 qualitative essentials for the art of MCC. But the point is that an ICF assessor at the MCC level is listening and watching for the extent that you demonstrate these 5 essential qualities. Okay, so the first one is depth. So you have your PCC markers. MCC is we're going to expect you to dive deeper in the conversation. What does something mean? The nuance of energy, the nuances of their energy shifts. the underlying, of course, for what they want to accomplish as an example. Partnership, curiosity, learning, and flow. So an assessor is going to pay attention to the depth of demonstrating partnership, the depth of demonstrating curiosity, and the depth of evoking the client's learning, and the extent of the energy of flow. So I'll talk a little bit more about flow. Flow is, it's a feeling of constantly being connected. It doesn't go, but the energy doesn't between the coach and the client. It's constantly connected with the client and responsive to what the client offers. Now, there's a flow of curiosity. There's a flow of empathy. There's a flow of trust and respect. And for the assessor, it doesn't feel like the coach is working at it, trying to make something happen. In fact, I have heard coaching conversations where it feels like time is not an issue. It's just timeless in that sense of flow. Now, it's easy. Flow is easier to understand if you know what gets in the way of flow. Interruptive words, like habitual vocalizations, like yeah, okay, or intervening while the client is talking, interspersing with those interrupt the flow. Something else that interrupts the flow is if the client shares and then the coach says, oh, what I heard you say was ABC, XYV. Well, now what they've done, Van Ann, is they've taken the energy away from the client and they've brought it over here. What I heard you saying was, or it sounds like what you meant was, I call that interpreting. Okay. So flow would be keeping the energy over there with the client and evoking the client. Oh, what did you just hear yourself say? Oh, what an insight. What are you learning about yourself? See, it stays, keeps the energy over there. So flow, partnership, not teaching, not leading, right? Not directing the, deciding on the direction, but inviting the client to lead. That's our partnership. We invite the client to lead. Where would you like to go from here? What choice would be, best choice for you? And then curiosity, asking versus telling, evoking, curious, I don't know, I'm willing not to know, I'm just curious. And then, of course, evoking learning and the client's own self-awareness. So depth, partnership, curiosity, learning, and flow. Those are the hot tips for today.
Thank you so much for some of those wisdom of that you share with us. I really want to know, what do you feel after sharing all those to us?
What do I feel? Oh, okay. I feel happy.
And I feel blessed and honored to receive the wisdom from you, and to be the catalyst for our audience in the future listening to the podcast to learn from you. We are at the end of our podcast already. What I can learn from this podcast is so much, like the stuff to know to all other coaches out there. the five elements that you just share. And the most important part of this podcast that I feel is your presence, and your whole journey, and your sharing, and your authenticity. I really, really, I'm really honored to have the opportunity to interview with you. So thank you a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Van, and you touched my heart when you were so deeply touched. I will treasure the time that we've shared together here today. I wish you all the best of everything for you personally, your team, and your organization.
As we wrap up this enlightening conversation, I really want to extend our deepest gratitude to Coach Fran Fisher for sharing her profound insights and experiences with us. Her dedication to coaching profession, her commitment to authenticity, the spiritual path and spiritual journey of a coach and a person, and her visionary leadership continue to inspire coaches around the world. And to our listener, thank you for joining us today. If today's episode resonates anything with you, please subscribe, leave a review, or share with your fellow coaches or those who are considering coaching as their profession. Until next time, keep embracing the power of coaching to transform lives. Thank you, audience.